World's Guide.
The Space Race. USA versus USSR. The space race was a period of intense competition between the United States, USA, and the Soviet Union, USSR, during the Cold War, primarily from the late 1950s to the early 1970s. Origins and early milestones. 1. The space race began in earnest with the launch of the Soviet satellite Sputnik 1 on October 4, 1957, marking the start of the space age. 2. Sputnik 1 was a small, spherical satellite that transmitted radio signals from orbit. 3. The successful launch of Sputnik 1 by the USSR surprised and alarmed the United States, as it demonstrated Soviet technological prowess. 4. The U.S.A.'s response was to accelerate its own space program, leading to the creation of NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, in 1958. 5. The U.S.A. launched its first satellite, Explorer 1, on January 31, 1958. First human in space. 6. Yuri Gagarin, a Soviet cosmonaut, became the first human in space on April 12, 1961, aboard the Vostok 1 spacecraft. 7. Gagarin's flight made him an international hero and symbolized Soviet space superiority. First American in space. 8. Alan Shepard became the first American in space on May 5, 1961, aboard the Freedom 7 spacecraft. 9. Shepard's flight was suborbital, reaching a maximum altitude of 116 miles. Moon missions. 10. The Apollo program, initiated by the USA, was dedicated to landing astronauts on the Moon and bringing them safely back to Earth. 11. The USSR had its own lunar program, including the Luna program for robotic missions to the Moon. 12. Apollo 11, on July 20, 1969, saw astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin become the first humans to set foot on the Moon. 13. Armstrong's famous words as he stepped onto the lunar surface were, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Spacecraft and technology. 14. The USSR and USA developed increasingly advanced spacecraft, such as the Soyuz and Gemini programs, for crewed missions. 15. The USSR's Soyuz spacecraft and the U.S.A.'s Apollo spacecraft were pivotal in achieving crewed space missions. Spacewalks. 16. Alexei Leonov, a Soviet cosmonaut, conducted the first spacewalk, extravehicular activity, on March 18, 1965, during the Voskhod 2 mission. 17. American astronaut Edward White followed with a spacewalk during the Gemini 4 mission on June 3, 1965. Space stations. 18. The USSR launched the first space station, Salyut 1, in 1971. 19. The USA Skylab space station, launched in 1973, followed. International cooperation. 20. Despite the Cold War rivalry, there were moments of international cooperation, such as the Apollo-Soyuz test project in 1975. 21. Apollo and Soyuz spacecraft docked in orbit, symbolizing détente between the superpowers. Competing for space records. 22. The USSR often held the lead in key space records, including the first human in space, the first woman in space, Valentina Tereshkova, and the first spacewalk. 23. The USA focused on milestones like landing on the Moon and developing space stations. Space race propaganda. 24. The space race was not just about scientific achievement but also served as a propaganda tool for both superpowers to showcase their systems as superior. 25. The media closely covered space achievements, contributing to public fascination and support. Scientific discoveries. 26. The space race led to significant scientific discoveries, including insights into the effects of space travel on the human body. 27. The race also advanced knowledge in astronomy, geology, and other fields through lunar and planetary missions. The end of the space race. 28. The space race began to wind down in the early 1970s, partly due to economic constraints and shifting priorities. 29. The USA's Apollo program concluded with Apollo 17 in 1972, while the USSR continued its space endeavors. Legacy. 30. The space race had a lasting impact on science, technology, and geopolitics, with both nations continuing to explore space in the post-Cold War era. 31. It laid the groundwork for international space cooperation, including the International Space Station, ISS. 32. The space race is seen as a symbol of human achievement and determination to explore the cosmos. Space race pioneers. 33. Key figures on the American side included astronauts like John Glenn, Alan Shepard, and Neil Armstrong. 34. Soviet space pioneers included Yuri Gagarin, Valentina Tereshkova, and Alexei Leonov. Technological innovations. 35. The space race spurred the development of advanced technologies, including miniaturized electronics, computer systems, and materials science. Impact on education. 36. The space race led to increased emphasis on science and engineering education in both countries. 37. It inspired a generation of young people to pursue careers in STEM fields. Cost of the space race. 38. The space race was expensive, with both nations diverting significant resources to their space programs. 39. Critics argued that the money could have been better spent on domestic priorities. Space race failures. 40. Not all missions were successful, and there were tragic failures, such as the Apollo 1 fire in 1967 and the Soyuz 1 crash in 1967. Space race today. 41. While the USA and Russia continue to collaborate on space missions, other countries and private companies have entered the space race in the 21st century. Commercial space race. 42. SpaceX, founded by Elon Musk, and other private companies are now competing to reduce the cost of space access and expand human presence in space. Lunar and Mars missions. 43. Both the USA and Russia have expressed renewed interest in lunar exploration, with NASA's Artemis program and Russia's lunar plans. 44. Mars exploration missions by both nations, including NASA's Mars rovers and Russia's Mars missions, continue to advance our understanding of the red planet. Space diplomacy. 45. Space has become a domain of cooperation and diplomacy, with international agreements governing the peaceful use of outer space. Space race artifacts. 46. Artifacts from the space race, such as lunar modules and spacesuits, are preserved in museums around the world. Inspiration for science fiction. 47. The space race inspired countless works of science fiction literature, film, and television. Human potential. 48. The space race demonstrated the incredible potential of human ingenuity and determination to achieve seemingly impossible goals. Astronomy and astrophysics. 49. The observations and data collected during the space race contributed significantly to our understanding of the cosmos beyond our planet. Continued exploration. 50. The space race left a lasting legacy by fostering a spirit of exploration and discovery that continues to drive space exploration efforts today. The space race was a defining era in human history, marked by technological advancements, geopolitical tensions, and remarkable human achievements in the pursuit of space exploration.
World's Guide